More revelations from Edward Snowden. And this time it's about the government's reaction to Wikileaks. And this is really interesting because it goes to show you what the government really thinks of freedom of the press and the First Amendment, let alone the violation of our privacies in the Fourth Amendment. Barack Obama used to be a constitutional law professor. That's a good one. All right, so The Hill explains, documents show that in August of 2010, the NSA urged at least 3 other countries to consider filing criminal charges against Assange for unauthorized publication of documents about the war in Afghanistan. Now, Julian Assange, in publishing these documents, did exactly what the New York Times did in, for example, the Pentagon Papers, or in the Wikileaks case. The New York Times and the mainstream media also published those eventually. So should they all go to jail? I don't know. He's the first one who did it. I don't know. He wasn't part of a mainstream media organization. Not only were we considering arresting him, but we were asking other countries to arrest him. It's a clear violation of the First Amendment, but this government and the one before it obviously didn't give a damn at all. They asked, can we treat a foreign server who stores or potentially disseminates leaked or stolen U.S. data on its servers as malicious foreign actor for the purpose of targeting with no defeats? Examples, WikiLeaks, thepiratebay.org, etc. So they want to treat some of these groups like WikiLeaks as malicious foreign actors. Why? Well, let me explain. Labeling the organization as malicious foreign actors would allow the NSA to track communications of anyone communicating with the groups, including American citizens. The NSA is normally otherwise prohibited from snooping on Americans. That's also a bit of a joke, but at the time they were thinking, okay, how can we get around all the restrictions so that if you are working with WikiLeaks in any way, shape, or form, if we label you a malicious foreign actor, and I guess any journalist now, especially if they're outside the United States, would be considered a malicious foreign actor by this government, well then we can, wiretap you, and not just you, but any American citizen. Did you commit a crime? No, we just called you malicious. So what? Okay, did we get a warrant? No, of course not. We just called you malicious. Now, that was asked, and then the response is unclear because that part of the documentation was not leaked. So we don't know if the government said, yes, go ahead, call them malicious foreign actors, but that request was put in by different branches of the government, okay? But it gets a little worse. The NSA's British counterpart, the Government Communications Headquarters, tracked visitors of WikiLeaks' website and people who use certain search terms to reach the site from Google and other search engines. So not just WikiLeaks, if you read WikiLeaks. Now that's information about your own government. The government wanted to track you down, and find out who you were, and spy on you. Now, in this case, it's the British government, right? You think that the British government isn't then giving that information to the American government? On which planet? In fact, there's a group of English-speaking countries, including New Zealand, Australia, Canada, that are called the Five Eyes. And what they do is they cooperate together to collect information. Oh, in Britain, what laws can you violate that we couldn't violate in America? Oh, okay, great, then you do that. In Australia, you do this because we couldn't do that in the UK or America. Okay, then we'll all collect information together and spy on all of our citizens. That's great. And by the way, you know who went to the WikiLeaks website other than the people who actually care about their government the most because they're active enough and engaged enough to want to know what their government actually did? Also, almost all the journalists that cover that area because they had to go to the site to know what was happening so they could report on it. Great. In other words, the British intelligence tracked all the journalists who gave a damn about national security and spied in on them too. Edward Snowden and Julian Assange are heroes for revealing what our government's actually up to. Now, if our government didn't mind, wouldn't they reveal it themselves? If they were proud of it, wouldn't they say, oh yeah, of course. We don't really believe in freedom of the press, and we don't believe that you should be able to go out and find what we're doing, so we're going to track all of you and spying on your private lives if you dare to even read this stuff. Why don't you just say it then? If you're proud of it, if you think it's not illegal, you think it's not unconstitutional, if you're not really working with the British, why don't you tell us? Instead, they try to hide this at all costs. And if anyone reveals any of their secrets, they are malicious foreign actors. Now, of course, when the British government violates our privacy as American citizens, they're not malicious foreign actors. They're lovely foreign actors who help our government oppress us. Thank God for the leaks. The true American heroes are people like Edward Snowden that tell us what our government's actually up to.